Commencing countdown.
3, 2, 1.
This is the contracting experience. Connecting government contracting professionals to the world around them through conversations with acquisition influencers, insights into evolving hot topics, and sharing lessons learned from the field.
Ever wonder who those professionals are that get to crawl around planes and production lines to inspect government supplies and services, to check quality and ensure adequate performance? Don't forget the cost and financial analysts that ensure taxpayer dollars are spent correctly on products and services that support our missions. Well, in this episode, you get a big picture view of what Defense Contract Management Agency does to support the Department of Defense from DCMA's Commander of the West Regional Command, Colonel David Learned. I hope you enjoy the episode, and make sure you check out the What DCMA Does video in the show notes to hear more about what DCMA does from the folks doing the job and the warfighters who use the products and services administered by the Defense Contract Management Agency. Welcome, Colonel David Learned, to the podcast.
Thank you.
So I have to admit, I'm excited about this conversation because as a contracting professional, I was working out in the field. I actually secretly wanted to do a job shadow program with DCMA just to get an insight into all that you guys provide to the program offices. So I'm excited for everybody to hear this conversation.
Awesome, and it's never too late if you want to come on over and join us.
So sir, can you tell us about the Defense Contract Management Agency?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with the mission and the vision because I think that's just fundamental and it guides everything we do, right? We are the independent eyes and ears of DoD and its partners, enhancing warfighter lethality, right? Ensuring timely delivery of products, providing relevant acquisition insight, and supporting affordability and readiness. Our boss basically says, Vice Admiral Lewis, he says we're the purveyor of facts and truth with regards to contract execution. And I think that sums it up really nicely. Our vision is one team, one voice, delivering global acquisition insight. One team, one voice is very important because it's such a large and complex organization, and there's so many variables. So that's really a key emphasis area for the agency.
So I like what you said about the facts and the truth, and then one team, one voice, because I know just as a contracting person, I'm working in my program office. You guys are the ones that are out there where the contractor's at and sees what they're doing. We can't see that always sitting in the office, and so it is important for us to go there, but we can't always be there, right? So that's what you guys are out there doing to help us with one team, and so it's important that we're on the same page and that we communicate so that we can do that.
Yeah, well said. You mentioned we're kind of all over, and we can talk a little bit more about the organization and composition a little bit later, but we're at over 19,000 contractors locations worldwide, so we do have a pretty broad footprint. We manage over 350,000 contracts valued at more than $5 trillion. We are a product delivery organization, and we are everywhere.
Awesome. So do you want to talk a little bit about the organizational structure?
Yeah, absolutely. We're organized to provide contract administration services, right? And that's prescribed for us in the FAR and the DFAR. So, but the primary composition, we're comprised of 6 primary operational wing level components, for lack of a better term. We have geographic regions, West, Central, and East, and I'm the commander of the Western region. Central region is commanded by an Army colonel, and Eastern region by a Navy captain. And this is because of the preponderance of work that we do. For example, on the left coast, we're mostly space, which is mostly Air Force. So we also have a couple other wing level operational components that would include international for all of our footprints outside of the continental United States. We have special programs, and then most recently cost and pricing, because it's such a key component of what we do. It was established as an operational component as well. We also, our basic primary unit is the contract management office. We have primary, which are group level, and streamlined, which are squadron level. And agency-wide, we have 89 contract management offices, or we call them CMOs. We also, I think, a couple other key elements of the organization. We have a Portfolio Management and Business Integration Directorate, PMBI. I mention them because we have an element in the National Capital Region that help assist our senior leadership team and their interactions with senior DoD and service officials. We also have dedicated experts performing earned value management, property management, aircraft operations, which is a surprise to many, as well as all the other critical functional support that allows us to do the mission.
Well, I also want to highlight, you guys have a video on your website called What DCMA Does, and I viewed that to prepare for this, and it's a great video, so I'm going to actually include it in the show notes because I think it's a great way for folks just to get a quick insight into all the different things that DCMA is doing.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. That video sums it up pretty nicely, doesn't it? One other element I want to talk about was workforce composition. So only 5% of the agencies, about 11,000, 12,000-ish members, 5% are military, 95% are civilian. Of those civilians, almost half are veterans, so we leverage the experience for sure. 85% of our employees are acquisition certified. And what was most interesting to me when I first joined the agency about 1.5 years ago is that we have actually more quality assurance personnel than contracting professionals. We're about 30% contracts, 35% quality assurance. We also have a large dose of engineers and software experts, as well as industrial specialists, program integrators, and then of course, the different mission and functional support I mentioned.
So what I hear there is a lot of expertise that we can be reaching out to ask for help if teams need it.
Amen.
All right, so the Defense Contract Management Agency recently updated its strategic plan, aligning the agency even closer with the Defense Department's National Defense Strategy. Can you highlight some of the changes to the plan that may affect how DCMA supports the acquisition community? And then can you also talk to how DCMA handles contract administration?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, the updated strategic plan is not a significant change. Vice Admiral Lewis believes, hey, the plan ought to reflect how we do business, what we do. And so not a significant change, but we are very closely aligned to the National Defense Strategy. And so we have 5 strategic plan goals that keep us on track and accountable, right? And so the first 2 goals, enhancing lethality through on-time delivery of quality products and enhancing lethality through affordability are linked to how we support the acquisition community and the NDS. Goal number 3, ensuring our funds are used in alignment with DoD guidance, right, in a transparent, accountable manner. Stewardship. Goal 4 is reforming agency business practices, working smarter and harder, and that's important, and that's a culture that we have, that every day to see how we can do things better. Like most organizations, we're not resourced to do all the work that's coming our way, so we got to do it smartly. And then in Goal 5, enhancing and strengthening the skills, readiness, and effectiveness of the workforce. I think the world of the workforce we have, like you had mentioned, we've got a lot of folks around the globe, and experts in many different fields that add value, to programs. We also, in the Western region, we talk about lines of expertise, and this is, varies across different regions, but I'll give you an example. In the West, we have the agency expertise in commercial derivative aircraft. So we have folks in the factory, for example, working on the KC-46 and the P-8 program. We have expertise in space systems. We have expertise in NASA production operations, and guided munitions, and as well as unmanned aerial vehicles. So each region has, based upon the work that it's supporting, has this expertise for the agency and the DoD. Another key element for us to talk about is where we contribute by program phase. I think that's important for folks to understand. And so, for example, although we perform contract administration, everything cradle to grave from contract award to contract closeout, we offer a lot of assistance in pre-award steady state. We have primary function, optional function. So for example, pre-award, right? We can help out by shedding insight on production capacity, financial stability of the organization, indirect and direct rate insights to help with negotiations, business system insight, right? We can do surveys and pricing support. Request for proposal and source selection is another key phase, and really it's really important for us to get involved early in the program, right? So if the contract is structured properly, the program office can get the insight and have the levers it needs.
No, that's huge, because a lot of times, we're trying to get things on contract and we don't take the time to pull the proper people in. So that's a big point, is to get your DCMA folks involved early on while you're developing your RFP. And then also, like you said, to set it up properly, because a lot of times it's easy not to think about, okay, eventually in however many, whether it's a year and a half or 8 months it's going to take to deliver this item, but when you deliver it, you need to make sure your processes are in place properly at that time, because you don't want it coming off the line and getting ready to accept it and say, oh, well, hold on a second, we forgot something, or something's not marked properly, those types of things. How are we going to deal with that now? And so then it's an emergency.
Absolutely, and so we can help with contract, clause, construction, right? We can help with market research and assessment. We can look at or explain to you corporate motivations from our perspective that we see across the enterprise. We have all kinds of lessons learned. We're looking forward and anticipated technical shifts, right? We can help you with a risk assessment. We can help you with negotiations by providing data, the facts and truth, right? When you get onto the contract performance element after the contract's awarded, we do program assessment reporting, and it's not the reports in itself that are of value, and they feed the system to inform senior leadership, but it's that constant dialogue and letting the program office and know how the contractor's executing, right, and providing that real-time insight. We also can assist with payment authorizations and withholds by providing that data, as I mentioned before, root cause analysis, subcontractor insight, right? Mm-hmm. The supply chain is where a lot of the risk is, and we have footholds and we have years and years of experience that we can share that information, which I think is very helpful.
And if I could just highlight a couple of things, so when I was like a brand new contracting officer and you're being hit with all these issues that are coming up with acceptances and inspections and stuff like that, and I'm not an expert in that area, but thankfully I called my DCMA counterpart and they were very helpful in saying, okay, so here's where they're at as far as the performance, and then we can look at if something's not up to par, do we need to take a withhold? And like you said, they can help identify what those issues are, and even if we need to come with what should the dollar value be for that. It's very helpful, because when you're under the gun getting pressure, like we need to get something out to the field, but we also need to make sure we're doing our due diligence. DCMA, from my perspective, was huge in that partnership to figure that out.
So I'm glad to hear that, and absolutely, and we can help inform, right, and provide the data. We can help estimate what would be the financial impact, and and support that kind of determination. And as you're aware, cash flow, is an important motivator for our contractors. And then finally I mentioned contract closeout, and we negotiate final rates, right, reconcile deliverables, property disposition, and so forth. So throughout those 4 phases, we have tremendous value that we can add.
Definitely. So what tools does DCMA support that acquisition professionals can utilize in their acquisitions? And then as part of that, what feedback have you received on the value of those tools?
Yeah, great question, and so when I hear the word tools, I think the first thing I think of is our relationship, and classify as a tool or not, but really that's I think the most important thing we can offer. Mm-hmm. As we talked about, having our folks dispersed across the country, having a foothold and that insight, and having a relationship where we can, we have that actionable insight, but unless we share it with the right people, right, it's not going to really benefit anybody. But I think that's the most important thof that we can offer. And I'll take a moment here just to talk about. We have corporate alliance networks, and so, for example, all of the CMOs across the nation and international, right, that have experience with one prime contractor, for example, get together on a regular basis and just talk about what's going on within that company, across the divisions, and right, and it's very insightful, and we can share that information, as a program office is considering, developing an RFP and right, wants to better understand the risk, and especially in today's environment where we want to go fast, right? We got to go fast, but we got to do it with our eyes open and understand where the risks are.
Well, and I think you mentioned in this earlier, but just for example, the fact that when you're at the contractor's facility, you guys are located, for example, in a certain area, they are servicing not just the Air Force, but they may also be providing products to the Navy or Defense Logistics Agency. Yes. And so you can help provide insight into maybe a particular program office of what else is being done there. So that way, if they're, let's say, analyzing a proposal that was sent in, and they're saying, well, these are the things that we need to be priced in this proposal. Well, what else is going on at that facility that needs to be taken into account when you're doing that?
Yes, absolutely, and very well said, Amber. I think So we do have a lot of tools. I think the best way, though, to answer this question is to make sure that folks contact our local CMO, right, and establish a relationship if there's not one there already, right, with the functional expertise that they're interested in. We also have a tremendous resource at our website, DCMA.mil. We can offer portal access to the secure site for government employees. Once inside that website, we lay out. It's very easy to kind of navigate through and find the POCs that could help you. For example, we have POCs and tools that can help with technical support negotiation, right? With proposal preparation, pricing and negotiations, IR&D, and we also have a commercial item database out of our commercial item group, which is really helpful for price analysis, market research, negotiations, and recommendations for pre-RFP support. And we maintain this database and provide government industry commercial pricing and pricing analysis training, and that's very helpful if an item is commercial, right? It helps reduce a lot of our requirements and helps us go faster.
Well, and I think I've worked with the DCMA pricing cell before, and it was kind of before the commercial cell was set up, but I will say the folks that were on that team were extremely helpful in helping us get there, especially from a technical perspective, because we're looking at trying to make things fit into a certain area if they're proper to fit there, and we just want to make sure as contracting folks that we have the documentation to back that up. And so that team was very helpful in that instance, and so I think that's a good resource to reach out to.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about this already, but how can acquisition teams better integrate with their DCMA counterparts, and what challenges is DCMA working through to bridge this gap?
Yeah, so for sure, and I'll go back to engaging their local DCMA contract management offices. Very easy to find on the website. And understanding our mission, our organization, our core competencies helps, and as a previous program manager and customer, I interfaced with one or two folks, the program integrator, and things were working well. But I know not all customers have the same kind of challenges, right? And that, they may evolve with the life cycle of the program. So what I didn't do then, which I'd encourage now, is for those program managers, those MLs, those SMLs, to engage with the CMO commander or director at that level, and talk through and make sure they understand, again, everything that we can offer, and that, for example, the surveillance plans, accurately reflect, where the risks are. Right. So maintaining communication between all parties is really important. And as I mentioned before, it's not just on a monthly report basis, but having a regular dialogue as part of a normal battle rhythm, is definitely one thing. And I'll foot stomp getting engaged early, saving time and effort down the road by structuring that contract, properly from the beginning, setting expectations and understanding resources and deliverables. And if the PMO is not getting what they need or expect, again, they need to just engage at the proper level, and I've found that our commanders and directors are all about the mission, right? I'll go back to, our connection with the NDS, and our commitment. Vice Admiral Lewis is I think the first program manager to lead the agency, and he's brought with his point of view a tremendous focus on delivering products to the warfighter. Right. And so we all reflect his focus.
And I think the main thing there too, at least just from a contracting person's perspective, is, like you said, the program office team being engaged with DCMA, and maybe not just the contracting people, but making sure that the program managers at that level are engaged as well. Because I've seen where the contractor may say one thing to the program team, right? Well, DCMA is not accepting something, and it needs to get out to the field, and then contracting people would try to play in the middle at the program office, say, well, hold on a second, let's go talk to DCMA, but it's like, I think if kind of like how you have the program managers say, okay, let's get DCMA involved, they're here to help us, and not take the contractors. They can definitely take the concerns, but let's give the benefit of the doubt to the team and say, we're all trying to get one thing, we're trying to get the deliveries done here, so let's make sure we're all on the same page and things are being done properly, and we're doing our due diligence from that standpoint.
So thank you for bringing that up, and you asked about challenges, and I think that's one of our challenges is the fact that DCMA, is an independent organization, right? And as a program manager, I know there are times where, the facts and truth of contract execution don't necessarily support the current objectives of the program manager. For example, if a program's running into issues, and funding's on the line, right? And I totally get that, and I think though there should never be any surprises, as long as we don't confuse understanding with agreement. I think that the agency will have that point of view. Hey, here's what's going on with regards to contract execution, and we're fact-based and passion-free about it. Sometimes that doesn't always support the program, and I get that. But as long as we're open and the customer understands our point of view and what it is we're communicating, and, we're doing what we have to do. And I think that helps address that challenge. Internally, we are challenged. As I mentioned, we're very large. We have 89 different CMOs, across the world. So consistency is a key focus area for us. When we're rolling down initiatives and implementing new policies or procedures, how do we maintain consistency, effectively and efficiently? And then resourcing. Vice Admiral Lewis is working really hard. Over the last 2 years, he's been trying to get additional resources. We've told Miss Lord, hey, we're 983 FTEs short to do the work we have contract now. And when you look at the workload that's coming our way and this emphasis on going, faster, right? We've been basically directed to handle this internally. We're not getting additional resources. So this goes back to all of our customers appear to be in a very similar situation, under-resourced. So we're focusing right now on high-value, high-risk work. We're stopping doing things that we would have done in the past because we were good at it, which is lower value, low risk work as defined by the FAR. We have exceptions, and we've been working with our customers. We also are not doing non-core services contracts, things that base and cores can do, the bases can handle. Right, and so as we free up those resources, we're applying them towards the high-value, high-risk programs like the F-35, for example. So that's one of the tacks we're taking to address our resourcing challenge. We also, of course, are looking internally. We have 6 different lines of effort, to address the resourcing problem.
So you've been the commander of DCMA West Regional Command for over a year now. What valuable insights have you gained in your time there that you will take to future assignments?
I think working in this joint environment, and seeing such a large and diverse team all focused, on the mission, on one mission, and that's delivering products has been really insightful to me. I've come away with a much greater appreciation for the, credible production, manufacturing, engineering, quality assurance, and contracting expertise. I haven't seen this side of it before, and there's a lot that goes into contract administration. I haven't mentioned even air operations. I didn't know, we have folks who are out there doing, flight acceptance tests, and making sure we're getting what we paid for. The other key thing is need for early engagement. That's my huge takeaway. Again, we go back to structuring that contract. It'll save a lot of time and money and heartache, if we make sure we have the proper clauses, in the contract. And I'm thinking of cyber right now, right? Huge focus, huge threat, and what are we doing to help ensure, that our primes are flowing their cyber requirements down through the supply chain, and how can we help ensure that they're following their processes. And finally, I think, is just the ability to interface directly with the CMO commanders and directors. Whenever there are issues or challenges that aren't getting resolved, don't waste time. Try and resolve the issue at the lowest level, and if not, then just bubble it up. We're all here, to deliver products for the warfighter and support the mission, right? That's something I haven't done in the past. I was working with DCMA at lower levels, and I didn't have the issues, But they're always there, and they're incredibly responsive, in my opinion. Even with our resource constraints, they'll work with you to figure out where your risks are, and again, how to adjust surveillance to best address the program needs. Those would be the 3 biggest things.
Awesome. Well, Colonel Learned, I want to thank you for being on the podcast today, and I'm going to take that offer for the job shed and put it in my back pocket for when the opportunity presents itself. So thank you.
Sounds like a plan. We'd love to have you.
All right. If you have suggestions for topics or people to interview or feedback on the podcast, you can submit those at thecontractingexperience@gmail.com. I want to thank you all for listening to the Contracting Experience podcast. Until next time, keep connecting to the world around you.